Hello, my name is Andrew Redmond with Blueprint Technologies, and today we're going to be talking about AI Builder inside of Microsoft's Power Platform. AI Builder was created to enable AI capabilities inside of the Power Platform. If you're not familiar with Microsoft's Power Platform, it is a low-code platform that enables organizations to analyze data with Power BI, to do something with that data via applications using Power Apps, and automate business processes using Microsoft Flow. AI Builder consists of 5 different capabilities. Today, we're really going to dive deep on 2 of those 5 capabilities, but I also wanted to talk about the other 3 capabilities. And those 3 are binary classification, text classification, and business card reader. Binary and text classification require you to create a model, and that model would consist of historical data. And using that historical data, the binary classification would determine if new data would fall into one of 2 categories, whether it was a yes or a no, or an on or an off, or a pass or a fail. The text classification would auto tag new data based off of historical data to determine things like spam detection. You could do things like sentiment analysis by tagging different text with tags for how the customer was feeling when they said that, whatever that text is that runs through there. And then the other one, like I said, was the business card reader. The business card reader capability allows you to, from Power Apps, create an application that would enable the camera on your phone to take a picture of a business card, and the AI Builder business card reader control would pull the details from the business card, like first name, last name, title, email address, those elements that are fairly common on all business cards. But like I said, we're not really going to talk about those a whole lot other than just what we did right there. But I wanted you to be aware that those capabilities do exist inside of the AI Builder, not just object detection and form processing, which is what we're going to talk about for the most of our time today. Now, object detection will allow you to count and locate and identify objects inside of an image. And this can help in things like the automation of business processes. It can simplify inventory management. If you could imagine all of the objects in your store had been detected and had a model built for them, you could simply take a picture of a shelf and get a count and a location of all of the items that were in that image. It could also be used for things like users in the field, if they're working on machinery or pieces of equipment and they need to look up a manual, let's say, for that piece of equipment. Well, they could take a picture of that piece of equipment and it would be identified. And then based off of that identification, a manual could be presented to them. Form processing, on the other hand, it allows you to extract text based off of a structure or a documents that have some structure to them. And usually things like invoices and tax forms are the first things that come to my mind when I think about typically a structured document. But today we're going to, like I said, go into some detail about what object detection is and what form processing is. So I say let's get started with the demos. Okay, the first demo that we're going to do is an object detection demo. And what I have created is I've created a Power App that will, let me drag that over to my screen so you can see it. So I've created a Power App that is going to allow us to detect Disney Infinity characters. So let's get started and see how this works. So first one I'm going to take a picture of is right there. And let's see if it knows who that is. And it is identifying it with the model that it's trained, and it finds out it's Captain America. Okay, so So far, so good. 1 for 1. All right, now let's see if it can identify Iron Man. And we will update him. And again, it's going to go back and look up at the model. And it has found Iron Man. There's one Iron Man in that picture. Okay, so now let's take a picture of both of them and see how it does with having multiples in there. And it finds both Captain America and Iron Man and identifies them with a bounding box. Now, I also wanted to demo the ability to count multiple items. Unfortunately, I don't have multiple infinity characters for each of these. So what I did is I took a picture of the characters next to a mirror and then got both the character and its reflection. And so we're going to see if I can get it to detect all of those. So let's grab this photo here. And as you can see, there's 2 in the bottom and 2 kind of at the side. And sure enough, it detected both of them. And like I said, this is kind of your an example of taking a picture of your store shelf to where it could identify everything that's on your shelf and give you a count to help with your inventory. Also, you can see that there's an arrow next to each of Iron Man and Captain America. And what we can do is, or what you could do is you could, as a user selects each one of those, you could send them to Iron Man or Captain America specific information, which would simulate the scenario of taking a picture of a piece of machinery or a piece of equipment and bringing up a model or a manual for that. Okay, so that is how that app works. So what I wanted to do now is actually go into the details of how we created that application. Okay, so the first thing that we did is we had to create a model. So you can see that I'm at make.powerapps.com and I'm under the AI Builder tab, and I go into the build section. And this is object detection. So I want to do object detection model. So I'll say new toy here. And you'll notice that it has to have at least 15 images per object, and your object names have to be in a database. And that is a common data service database. And so I had to create a table inside of my common data service database to store the object names. I did that beforehand so we didn't have to do that in this demo. So I'm going to create that. Oh, new toy already exists. New toy again, because I've been testing this. And so what this is going to do is it's going to start building out my model. And so let's select my object names, and I have a data table called Infinity Toy, and I want the name. And like I said, underneath that, I should have Iron Man and Captain America. So I'm going to select all of those. And then it wants me to add the images. And here I'm going to go to Infinity Characters and add all of the Infinity characters. And that will upload each of those Infinity characters. Now, the next thing it's going to do is once I click upload, it's going to upload those images to the model. And once that happens, then it's going to ask me to identify each of those characters. And so that process is a little bit painful because you have to identify each of the characters in each of the images. So on several occasions, I took pictures of partial images or partial characters so that I could get a good grouping of all of that detail. This obviously takes a long time to do. From a demo perspective, I say a long time, it probably takes 10 or 15 minutes. We don't have that much time for the demo, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel this and show you what it looks like on my existing model. So if we go to models, and you see I have infinity toys, and we're going to say we want a new version, and this will look very similar to what you just saw. And we will click through the objects that we want to detect. That's the objects, and there's all the images that are already there. So I had to identify each character in each image. And I took multiples again from different angles so that it would have a good indication of all the different angles of that particular image character. So we're going to say we're done tagging and we move on. And the last thing is to train. And again, training takes a few minutes, which we really don't want to wait for all of that time. So what we are going to do is we're going to go into the actual Power App and show you how to use that model that we just created. Okay, so here we're going to open our demo back up and create a new screen. And we're going to move it up to the top of this list so that we can, so it will be the first screen that shows up. And now we're going to add the object detector. It's under AI Builder Preview. And we add that, and it's going to ask us for the model. And so we're going to select our model, Infinity Toys. And once we select that, we're going to just resize this to make it look just like the other screen that we had. And we're also going to add a gallery to this list so that we can see the data that it's actually going to detect. And one of the other nice features about the detector is that we can set the image, or not the image source, but the data source, or item source, I mean, of this gallery to the object detector vision objects. And that will show us all the possibilities that it's expecting. So we're going to make those changes. And we're going to edit this gallery to use a template that doesn't have an image in it, since we don't have an image for this. So what we can do is we can actually change the layout of the gallery. And so we need to select the gallery and choose a layout that doesn't use an image. I just want the title and subtitle. And we want to change this to item.count. Okay, and so let's save. Oh, and let's do one more thing so that we can tell I'm not doing some kind of demo trickery. We will put a label up here that says, hey, I'm new, so that you don't think that I'm just using the same form. Okay, so now we're going to publish this, and we will publish. Now I want to bring my phone back to the screen. Okay, so now if I click AI demo again, it tells me, hey, there's a new version out there. So let's click that and download the new version. And as you can see, I see, hey, I'm new. All right, well, let's see if it can still detect Iron Man and Captain America. Take that photo right there. And again, this is going to use our existing model, so everything should work fine, and sure enough, it does. So that is literally how simple it is to create an object detection Power App. All right, so now that we've created the object detector, let's go in to talk about form processing. And just as a reminder, form processing is taking a structured document and extracting text from it. In our example, we are going to use invoices to show that. So first thing I would like to do is we're going to go here and we're going to get the process invoices Power App. So what I've done is I've built a Power App that will take an uploaded document and it will extract text from it. And I have those documents. I want to show them to you. So this is the invoice that we are going to be uploading. And as you can see, it's going to go to Bob Barker. It looks like this is his outfit. There's the subtotal, the tax, and we're going to run this app and make sure when we upload this favco_6.pdf that we can extract that data from that invoice. So we click on Analyze. Let's go out here and we go to Invoice Samples, favco_6.pdf. And it is going to take the PDF, compare it to the model, and it has extracted all of the detail from it. So let's see if it's right. Okay, 450, 25, 325. Yep, sure enough, it's pulled in, looks like everything correctly. So it has analyzed everything that we want to do, which is really, really cool. But now the next thing I wanted to try is to see, what about if I take a picture of that invoice? So I've printed this PDF out on a black and white printer, and I've taken a picture and saved it as a JPEG. As you can see, it's the exact same invoice. So let's upload that. And that's favco6.jpg. It will analyze that, and while it's comparing it to the model, and it takes a few minutes for these to analyze as it's comparing to the existing model that it has in the structure, and it's putting bounding boxes on all of the areas where it's finding the details. Okay, so as you can see, it's pulled in all of the information just like it did before, which is really, really cool stuff, right? It looks like it's given us a percent confidence, 100% on everything except salesperson and job. Okay, well that's interesting. We'll come back to that in just a second. But what I wanted to do now is, given that information, so there may be some times when you have something that may or may not be able to get 100% clarity. What we can do is we can actually modify this application to, instead of these all being labels where you can't edit the text, we can actually make that data editable before you would want to upload that, say, into a SharePoint list or a database table or something like that. So let's close this out and let's create a new text box. But we'll create a label first. And we will call this salesperson. And then we'll put a text box next to it. And we will set this equal to form processor1 dot form content, not text. Form content fields dot salesperson. Oh. Okay, so as you can see right there, it's Gary Rogers. All right, so now let's play this again. It's Gary Rogers, but I know you're thinking that I didn't actually reanalyze that. So let's do it again, just to make sure. And so what it's going to do this time is it's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to analyze the picture, and it's going to give percentages based off of what it thinks. it still has a salesperson of Gary Rogers at 36%, which is actually correct. If we look at the actual invoice, Gary Rogers is his name. But let's say it's wrong and it's actually Larry Rogers. Well, this would be a way you could change that. We could put a button down here at the bottom that says upload, and it actually uploads the correct data from the invoice into a database table, into a SharePoint list, or into any kind of structure that you would like to put that in. Okay, so let's go look and see how we do that. Back to our AI Builder tab. So let's go into models. And inside models, let's build a new model. This is going to be a form processing model. So this is a new invoice model. And for this one, all we need is 5 documents with the same layout. So it just so happens that I have 5 documents, and I will open those, but not the 6th one. The 6th one is different. As you can see, those are similar. I'm going to upload those documents, and it's going to actually upload those to the cloud, and then upload is complete. So now I want it to analyze, and this is where it's analyzing the structure of each of those documents and finding the things that are consistent across the documents. And it's going to ask me in a few minutes, what do you want to group together and how do you want to tie that together? And so this does take a few minutes to do, but I think we can wait on it. If not, we will definitely fast forward the video so you don't have to wait and listen to me drone on. Okay, so it's done. And as you can see, it's found some fields, but none of them were selected. So let's go ahead and select all these fields. It found the invoice, the mail to, the salesperson, the job, the terms, the table data, the subtotal, the sales tax, and the total. And so it's got all of those fields identified as what we want. And so we're going to say done. We're going to say next, and we're going to go ahead and train this model. Now, again, might take a while to train the model, so it says go to models. Oh, but look, it's already done. So we're going to go to the details page. And so on the details page, this is what you get after you've trained a model, but before you've published it. And it's going to tell you how many form fields you have and how many documents you trained. So let's do a quick test to see if it can identify the PDF that we did not upload. Faveco 6 is one we did not upload. And so it's analyzing it right now. And as you can see, it has found all 12 of the items that we have. It also gives you a percentage of confidence. It's not real confident on that salesperson, but that is the test that we did. And so everything looks good. So now here you would click publish. And once you hit publish, that is actually ready to use inside of your application. Speaking of your application, let's see how that works. So this is a form processor control. This was added from right here. So if we add a form processor control, it's going to ask me, well, which receipts do you want to use? Favorite company receipts is the one that I was testing in the model. The new one we just created was new invoice model. So we select that, and that is it. Once you have that selected, all of the detailed data on this right-hand side comes from form processor.form content fields invoice to. You saw me put in salesperson. Here's the invoice number. There's the date. We'll talk about those in a second. Here's the subtotal, or sorry, subtotals are here. And the subtotal. Now this is a data table. Inside the data table, I created the items source is the table's table 0. And that is what allows you to identify each of the fields inside of the invoice table. So I added description, line total, quantity, and unit price. So that's all of the fields we could remove, say, unit price. We can remove that, and you can see that that reduces it. So as you can see, very, very quickly, you could stand up something and build an application inside of Power Apps to use Form Processor to process invoices. Now, that kind of covers the electronic document PDF. It covers taking a picture of something, but it really doesn't handle, like if you get lots of invoices. I'm sure the question that you're asking is, can you use that to handle multiple invoices? So I'm really glad you brought that question up, because what we're going to do next is we're going to use Microsoft Flow to see how we might handle bulk invoice processing. So what I have here is I've created an invoices document library and an invoice list, SharePoint list. And the document library is going to be where we store the invoice documents. The invoice SharePoint list is where we're going to extract the data from each invoice and put it into its correct column. So let's use the old Favco 6 PDF and upload this. And I picked the PDF, but you could also do the JPEG. You just have to edit the flow to expect a JPEG instead of a PDF. And I'll show you that in just a second. So we're going to go over here now to Microsoft Flow, and it looks like it has finished. So this row right here, 8 seconds ago. So now let's go back here to the invoice list. Let's refresh, and we should see data. And sure enough, we do. As you guys remember from the invoice, I'll bring it up here just in case we don't remember. The payment terms, net 15, subtotal looks right, tax looks right, total looks right, invoice 2. Okay, so you could see that it did all of the things that it was supposed to. So let's take a look at how that works. So inside of Flow, what we have, the very first step is the trigger. So we've created a trigger when a file is created in a folder. And in our case, we used a SharePoint document library, but this could be an Azure Blob Storage account folder. It could be several different locations for that to be triggered off of. And once that folder or file is created in that folder, it goes to the predict step. And this predict step is part of the AI Builder toolset. AI Builder has created custom flow steps as well, and this is one of those. And you pick the model. This is my favorite company invoices model, and you give it a payload. In our case, this is what I was saying earlier, ours is a PDF. This is going to expect PDFs. You can also build one that will handle images, JPEGs if you want. You just have to update the MIME type and update the encoding. And then out of this step, it produces JSON. And so in the JSON, this is the structure of the JSON. And it will take that structure and it will input it into the invoice list, SharePoint list. Here's the file name. This is the invoice date, the invoice number. Here are all of the fields that it has inside of that SharePoint list. And once you hit save, as soon as you save it and turn that process on right here, this would turn it off if I clicked it. If I turn it on, once it's on, it is monitoring the directory. So today we've talked a little bit about how AI Builder can be used inside of the Power Platform to identify binary and text classification, how you can read business cards from a photo, and then we went a little bit further into object detection and form processing with a Power App and a Power App for the object detection, a Power App for the form processing, and then we also built an automated flow using Microsoft Flow as to how to process multiple invoices at the same time. If you think any of these technologies can help your business, please reach out to us, as we would love to be part of your transformation into using AI Builder or into the Power Platform. Thanks again for taking time to watch this and have a really great day.